created for us, so that we can not go on the Day of Judgment and say, Allah, we didn't have time for you. One of the first questions or su'al on the Day of Judgment is about how we utilized our time. And if we look at the lives of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, they were the pinnacle. They were the best examples of those who utilized their time in the best manner, in the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted from them. The Sahaba radiallahu anhu's manners was that 6 months prior to the month of Ramadan, they would engage and they were very eager in doing ibadah and worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because they understood their maqsad. They understood their reason behind why they are here in this world. And so that we also see from one of the narrations, it is said about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he would prepare in Rajab and Sha'ban, such that he would also fast in the month that would be most in fasting outside of Ramadan would be the month of Sha'ban. And in this month of Sha'ban that we currently are in, again Allah gives us another opportunity. And this opportunity is known as the Nisfu Sha'ban, or the Laylatul Bara'a, the night of emancipation. And is mentioned in a hadith of Mu'adh ibn Jabal that's narrated in At-Tabarani, that he says that the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, in the 15th night of Sha'ban, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala manifests and forgives all his creation except the mushrik and the spiteful one. So there's a lot of cultural aspects or actions that happen that are not part of the deen in this Nisfu Sha'ban. And one of the key things is there are some weak narrations from those, and I won't get into those discussions, but as far as what we need to do on this blessed night that's about to approach in just a few nights, as today is the 13th day and tonight will be the 14th night, tomorrow will be the 15th night, Saturday night. An individual should engage, from the teachings of the Prophet ﷺ, should engage in as much as ibadah as one can. There's no specific stipulation of what to do, but it's a encouragement. It's a opportunity that one should look for as Ramadan is approaching, as a litmus test, as an indicator of am I ready or am I not for Ramadan? Because this is a very important su'al, that where am I today with my connection with Allah Ta'ala? Where am I with my qurb with Allah Ta'ala? If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala were to take me today, how do I stand with Allah Ta'ala? So this month of Sha'ban that we are currently in is another opportunity to start getting it going. Even though some may say it's a little too late, it's never too late, inshallah. As you know, one of the kind of principles in project management is that in order to plan, you have to plan how you are going to plan. So another saying is that a person who fails to plan is planning to fail. Right? So what does that mean for you and I? As Ramadan approaches, what kind of conversations are we having at home? What is the discussion around the table when we're eating together, inshallah, at the Dasrakhan? That what, as a child, do you hope for, or your goals, right? What are your goals to the wife, to the husband, to the child for the month of Ramadan? This was actually the amal and the actions of our elder pious predecessors, as I'll share some stories with you from Mullah Zakaria Kandhlawi rahimahullah. But when we are planning, there's also another principle in project management, that you have to have SMART goals. SMART stands for, the S is for small, M is for measurable, that you can actually get something quantified from there. A is for achievable, R is for realistic, and T is for timely. Meaning that don't overwhelm yourself. Don't overwhelm our families with the grandness of Ramadan, and then when day one comes we use all our energy, and then by the second week and we notice this. May Allah protect us from this trend. But the halat is that as Ramadan goes, one of the scholars says, don't make your Eid al-Fitr, your days of Ramadan the same as your Eid al-Fitr, as though you're not fasting anyway. And we'll get into that in a second. But there's a concept when you're playing a sport that you have to be a student of the game. You have to take notes. You have to be a sponge. You have to have pen to paper. And what does that mean? That in order to reignite and reinvigorate the spirit of change and tabdeel within our hearts and in our manners and our akhlaq, and to make the connection with Islam and faith, we must plan. And that's where, inshallah, today we'll talk about a little bit. And so this starts with, number one, having optimism. You have to look at the situation that we have today and have the realistic understanding that the children are, astaghfirullah, may Allah protect them, are moving away from the deen. They didn't have the same opportunities or the same way that the kids in my time and my elders, my parents and my grandparents' times, they were being upbrought with the spirit of Islamic identity. So for the youth, it becomes a more challenging time. You are in school, you see your friends eating, partaking in other actions. So the aspect of Ramadan where the sacrifice comes in play when we're doing fasting, so there's two types of sacrifice, the jan and the mal. This one is for the jan, for yourself. And this is actually the heritage of Islam. As if you know the benefits of fasting, one of them is there is a door that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives to the people who are fasting, and it's called Babur Rayyan. Another very huge blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as mentioned in this hadith that I had recited to you, that kullu amal ibn Adam, that every action of the son of Adam is for him, and for every good deed that he gets, he will get 10 of those in reward. بِعَشْرِ أَمْثَالِهَا إِلَى سَبْعِمِيَّةٍ, until 700 multiplied. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَقُولُ اللَّهُ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ إِلَّا الصِّيَامِ فَإِنَّهُ لِي وَأَنَا أَجْزِي, that except for the siyam, the fasting, indeed it is for me and I will reward it. So the test of the time for a lot of the youngsters is, maintaining your Islamic identity and also fasting. It becomes hard for them. I went to school here, it gets tricky. So what do you do as some take-home activities with your family? You group together with your wife and children at least once a week now till Ramadan, and have a conversation about what is achievable. What things do you want to do less of? So number one, what do you want to do less of in Ramadan, and what steps will you take to make it come true? And what things do you want to do more of in Ramadan, and what steps are you going to do to make it come true? Additionally, an individual can look at those sifat and those qualities that we are weak in and we need to rectify and fix ourselves in, such as how to handle one's anger, how to curb one's passion. In fasting, the relationship is not allowed to have with the wife or the husband because it is a breaker of the fast. So some scholars recommend that after the fajr, after suhoor, sleep in a separate bed. So another thing is, in regards to some of the goals, is how do I manage the time? Some of the students are studying for the exams, MCAT, these types of exams. So they're very busy. When somebody doesn't know if this is the last opportunity that we're going to get for Ramadan, how should we look at it? There was one masjid that I was leading Taraweeh at, and one brother we were praying with, he was with us that Ramadan. The next Ramadan he wasn't with us, and he was just recently married, and he had kids. So we don't know the reality of where our situation is going to be in the next Ramadan. So every moment is so precious. Ideally, we need to understand that with the holiness of the zaman and the makan, also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives more rewards, or similarly gives more of the bad deeds. So when someone is going for Hajj, their example is the example of the Prophet ﷺ and the teaching from the Surah Al-Baqarah, that we do not engage in jahalat actions and argue and engage in that kind of thing. So the Prophet ﷺ gave us a remedy that if somebody engages with us in a kind of mean or rude behavior, then we just say, Ana Sa'im, that I am a fasting individual. Understanding that the rewards and the deeds, the ajr for them, the thawab, is multiplied manyfold in Ramadan. And so we need to be people who have vision, and this means that we sit down and we have to talk about it. Now, some fadail and virtues of Ramadan is that this is a month of tazkiyatun nafs. It's a month wherein one can increase in their purification and rectification of the heart and take out those bad qualities and the diseases of the heart. When I was studying in South Africa, our teachers, before the Fajr Salah, before even the Azan, they would come sit 20 or 30 minutes before in their own spots, and they would engage in the zikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the tahleel, La ilaha illallah. Because that is afdalul dhikri, La ilaha illallah. This is so powerful. So when we see some examples, inshallah, some real life examples like from Mulana Khalil Ahmad Saharanpuri Sahib, you'll see how his whole day was, even at a very elderly age. So we here in America, we say we have no time, right? What can we do to make that different, right? Understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives the barakah of the time when we actually plan for it, going back to what we talked about. So understanding that the fast itself is a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that nobody knows what the reward is. But when you're fasting, don't do things, actions that are going to break the fast. So in order to change our halat and change the condition of the world, the month of Ramadan is there for us to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And an example is the Battle of Badr. The Sahaba radiallahu anh partook in the Battle of Badr in the month of Ramadan. And they were very few in number. But their amal and their trust, 313 roughly, on that Maidan were the best in human history. 313 people, Sahaba. That is why the Badri Sahaba have the highest level of ranking of Muslims ever on the face of this earth in all history. Such that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that He forgives whatever sins that they do after the Battle of Badr. Subhanallah. So we have to keep in mind also, now that shaitan is locked up in the month of Ramadan, do we just have there's basically no excuse? We also have to battle our nafs. And that's where one example came in of an Israeli story of a man. His name was Barisa. And he was a very noble abid of the Bani Israel, and he worshipped day and night. One time, there were some young men, 3 brothers, that had to partake in battle, in jihad. And they had a younger sister. And this younger sister needed to be taken care of. So they asked that Barisa, there's a room, there's a location next to the temple where you're worshipping. Can she stay there? At first he was very against it. But then shaitan, he gave waswasa and whispers that how can you do this? You should help your Muslim brother, your brothers in faith. And so he let in. Slowly he let in more and more. I'm not going to go into the full details, but such that he had a child with this lady. Then shaitan came to him and told him that, look, what are you going to say to the brothers upon their return? You should kill the child. So then he did. He killed that child. And then again, shaitan told him that you can't just kill the child because the wife is going to rat on you. She's going to tell on you. So he killed not the wife, the lady that he committed this action with, he killed her as well. So then the brothers, so then he went back into worship in his temple, and the brothers ended up coming back from the war, and they found out that their sister had passed away. But then shaitan came to them, and he told them that one at a time, one each brother, and told them that this is the area of the location where your sister is buried, and there's a child with. Go and see. And they did the examination. They found that is true, and they questioned Barisa, and he said that yes, I did. So then they had a cross, and they killed him on the cross. And so this is the story of Barisa. But what lessons do we learn? Number one is that an individual who engages in things that, I'm fine, I'm doing ibadah, and you're kind of in a haze and a delusion, and we think that, I've done enough with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But what is enough with Allah? We have to understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who is Qadir al-Mutlaq, the one who is capable of everything, who has given us the ability to breathe, the ability to think, the ability to comprehend huge formulas and tasks. This is Allah who we are dealing with. He is the one who gives us the night and the day. He's the one who brings down the rain, and then the crops come through the avenue of the rain. So we cannot say that I've done enough amal, that I am free from the nafs and shaitan. We have to be very, very mindful and watching over these enemies of the insan. And so when we look at the aspect of revival in Ramadan, is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if He's the one who gives life to the dead, when we were just droplets of sperm in the womb of our mother, Allah gave us life. And the Quran gives example that Allah is able to recreate us after we are dust and bones. So when we realize this, then we realize the magnificence of Allah, and then we will worship Him stronger with a more zeal, inshallah ta'ala. And that's where I want to end with just one story, that Imam Zakaria rahmatullah alayh, he gives a example of what he observed from Ustaz Maulana Khalil Ahmad Sahananpuri during many of the Ramadans. He said he was a weak, sickly person of advanced age, but in spite of that, he used to read 1 1/4 juz of the Quran in Nafil Namaz after Maghrib. After breaking fast, he engaged in this 1 1/4 Quran. Thereafter, he used to eat for about half an hour. After performing all other necessities in preparation for Taraweeh Salah, he used to stand in Taraweeh for about 2.5 hours while in India, and for 3 hours while residing in Medina Munawwara. Thereafter, he used to sleep for about 2 or 3 hours according to the season. Then again, he used to recite the Quran in Tahajjud Salah until about half an hour before Fajr. Then he ate sehri. From that time until Fajr, he remained busy with reading the Quran or reciting wazifas. With the grayness of the dawn, he performed Fajr Salah, whereafter he remained in meditation muraqabah until Ishraq. Having performed Ishraq, he used to write his famous kitab Bazl al-Majhud, commentary on Abu Dawud. Then he normally attended to letters and dictating replies. From Asr until Maghrib, he used to be busy with thinking and answering the questions of those who visited him. When he completed Bazl al-Majhud, he used to be busy studying some monumental religious works. This was the daily routine throughout the year. In Ramadan, however, he used to spend a bit more time in his ibadah, making the rakahs longer. Our other great Shaykh al-Hind Maulana Mahmud al-Hasan rahmatullah alayh used to remain in Nafil Salah from Taraweeh until Fajr, while also listening to the Quran recited by various Hufaz, one after the other. So in conclusion, understand that, this month that's approaching very fast, our outlook and our, preparation is very critical now at this juncture. That if I were to pass away today, Allah looks at our niyyah, our intention. And if our planning and our niyyah is there, and if we pass away, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will, inshallah, as a promise is, that we will get the reward of our niyyah. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He allow us to have barakah in Ramadan in our time, spiritual, mental and physical barakah as well. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from those actions that are in His displeasure in this month of Ramadan. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of our family and our communities, those who are sick and those who are in need of dua. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant them afiyah.
Inshallah, make your way forward, please, inshallah. Fill in all the gaps. Fill in all the gaps, inshallah. Make your way forward. Jazakallah.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Inshallah, we have two important announcements. First, tomorrow night after Salatul Isha, we'll have a program on the merits and virtues of the 15th night of Sha'ban, Laylatul Bara'ah, with Mufti Hisham Dawood will be our speaker. After Isha, again, that's tomorrow night after Isha. And secondly, there is a program organized by Association of Muslim Scholars titled Khatm Nabuwa Conference, The Finality of Prophethood, Facts, Fallacies and Fitnas. Inshallah, this will take place on March 8th, a Friday evening at Shalimar Banquets. The speakers will be Sheikh Amin Kolwadia, Sheikh Hamza Maqbool, and Dr. Mufti Yasir Nadeem Al-Wajdi. Please make a point to attend this program and spread the word also. Jazakumullah khairan.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تعالى في القرآن المجيد بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان. وقال تعالى إنا أنزلناه في ليلة القدر ليلة القدر خير من 1000 شهر. صدق الله العظيم. وقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كل عمل ابن آدم له الحسنة ب10 أمثالها إلى 700 ضعف. يقول الله عز وجل إلا الصيام فإنه لي وأنا أجزي به، أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تعالى في القرآن المجيد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. وقال تعالى إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. أقم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Inshallah, please fill in the gaps, turn off your cell phones. Allahu Akbar. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. سبح اسم ربك الأعلى الذي خلق فسوى والذي قدر فهدى والذي أخرج المرعى فجعله غثاء أحوى سنقرئك فلا تنسى إلا ما شاء الله إنه يعلم الجهر وما يخفى ونيسرك لليسرى فذكر إن نفعت الذكرى سيذكر من يخشى ويتجنبها الأشقى الذي يصلى النار الكبرى ثم لا يموت